Hello, Copic in the craft room friends. Michelle Houghton here, and I am using some brand new images by Kraftin Kimmie. This is a set of Jolly Happy Snowmen, and I stamped these up on some of my standard Copic go-to paper first, and then I decided why not play around a little bit with some glitter papers. So this is one that has been recommended. Cryogen paper has been recommended to me, and it's really hard to see the shimmer, but it's got a nice shimmer to it. Then I've got some really glitter papers. This one is a general one that I bought at Michael's. It's just their standard glitter cardstock. And then this other one is from Crazy Creations. And I've heard that this paper it's a microfine glitter paper, and that it is really good for Copic coloring, that it works really well with Copic markers. So I'm giving it a try. I'm going to see if the cheap Michael's version does as well or has some flaws to it. Now, when I do stuff like this, just so you guys know, I know ahead of time that I could ruin a marker, or not ruin a marker, but ruin a nib. So I know that going into that I could get some glitter or glue on one of those nibs, and I might have to throw that out. So I'm doing this for you so you don't have to do that experimenting if you don't want to. So I am using some BV20 and some colorless blender on my little snow friend, which is the colors I almost always use on my snow friends. And on the Cryogen, it seems to be blending really well. It's doing that beautiful fade out, adding that touch of blue and hint of violet that I like so much with that color. And then I'm going to do a YR18 and a Y38 on his little carrot nose. Again, what I'm looking for is if these colors are going to blend really well on this paper, if the paper holds tight the layers of ink so it's not blowing out and bleeding outside my image. I've got two greens going on the little earmuffs, G40 and G46. Just adding kind of some little squiggles and dots in there to make that look fluffy. And I want to see, G43. I said that incorrectly. And then going back and blending. So when I put 3 layers of ink, when I use that colorless blender, does it go outside the lines? I'm adding some dots now with my G20, which is going to bleach out a little. It's going to add a little bit more texture. Notice I slowed down and I'm holding that marker in place. And I can just barely see that shimmer when I kind of angle that paper. It's kind of a fun detail, and it seemed to hold really well. It works very similar to some of my other favorite Copic papers. Then I'm starting over again using the exact same color series on Snowman number 2. And this guy's on kind of this less expensive. It is literally a glitter cardstock that I found at Michael's crafting store. So this is a generic one. I'm looking to see if I'm picking up glitter, because now I've got the microfine glitter on there. And I'm using now my colorless blender. It seems to be doing the same nice effect. It actually pulls the color pretty well. It's reacting a little differently than standard cardstock though, because remember, now we've got that glitter in there, which is in itself a non-porous surface. So a little bit I'm picking up, it looks like a little bit of that blue violet on my colorless blender. So I'm scrubbing that off to the side. That's not a big deal. I will give you a little heads up that later on I have noticed that on my colorless blender I did pick up a little glitter from this paper. It's not a big deal. It doesn't seem to be affecting the ink flow or that alcohol flow, but it does look like some of that glitter picked up onto that nib. I haven't replaced it yet. It doesn't look like I'm going to need to, but just kind of a little forewarning. Going back in with my two G4s and maybe a little bit of that G20. What I didn't do was really go after the actual ink line, the stamp line with my colorless blender. And again, I know I might ruin my nib here, but I'm trying to see if that ink is sitting tight. On the Cryogen, it's really not budging. It's not smearing, it's not budging, but you can see on the glitter paper, it actually really lightened that ink line. So my stamped image is not super solid on that glitter paper from Michael's. I'm trying the same thing now on my third paper, which is this one from Crazy Creations, and it is actually sitting pretty solid. It smeared a little bit, but it's not picking up on my marker, and it's actually holding a fairly solid black line. So if I'm not scrubbing over the black line, I think I'm actually okay with this one. So same process going back in. This actually is blending a little bit better than that first glitter paper, the kind of chunky one from Michaels. It actually seems to be doing fairly well. So what you're going to see, I'm going to do those same kind of series. I've got the yellow, red, and the yellow on the nose. I've got the greens on the earmuffs. I'm kind of going in reverse on this one, starting with my dark and going into my light so it doesn't get quite as muddy. This one, though, I feel like is sitting on top a little bit better than the Michaels version. So again, 3 really different papers. The Cryogen is not a great direct comparison just because it's a barely shimmer paper, where the other 2 are those real distinct micro glitter papers. In my opinion, if you want to do some coloring on glitter, I would go ahead and invest in the paper from the Crazy Creations. I just think it actually is works fairly well with Copic, and it's kind of a fun little add-on. It is a little pricey, so you're going to want to kind of tuck in and use every little square inch you can. Thank you so much, Kraftin Kimmie, for letting me share your new stamps. Join me over at scrapweaver.com. We've got some announcements coming up pretty quick, so make sure to stop by here in the next couple weeks.